Hi, Lee from Your Automation. Just a quick introduction to a sit down I had with Gareth, our lead automation engineer here. It's a video where we sit down and have a look through a unique workflow and app that we've built that looks at breached 365 accounts. I hope you find it useful. Okay, Gareth, the next workflow we're going to look into that we've designed over the last 2 to 3 months is something that's quite important around security. So we've developed a 365 user account breach lens, which is very impressive from my point of view as a non-technical person. So I look at it and think it's extremely clever in what it does. But would you be able to go show us through that and what it does and how it helps our MSP?
Yeah. So there's two sides to breach lens, essentially dealing with a compromised mailbox, but also what if someone just says, "Well, I think I've been breached," or "I've pressed a link and they haven't been breached." Well, this is kind of where the time-consuming stuff comes in because essentially you're either going in, you kind of resetting the passwords and everything else, and it turns out it's not. Now I know it's better to be safe than sorry, but what if you got that extra layer on top to be reassured that essentially, oh, this actually isn't a breach? And this is what Breachland kind of does because before it essentially deals with a compromised user, it generates a report. It even looks through kind of how many external emails have been sent out in a short duration, because we all know if there's a breach in the mailbox and they're sending out, it's usually a lot of emails in a very short time. This detects attack patterns. It even looks into new MFA methods added, and a lot of other things which I'll showcase in a moment. So that
Okay.
itself can save the client that time as well, because you're not having to kind of go down the whole compromised route. But as well as that, because of how thorough this report is, and this is the main one, is trying to make sure that essentially our security team can give that best result as fast as possible for the client, including some login to say why we thought this was breached or possibly why it wasn't breached. So I'll share my screen now. We'll
Yeah.
start from inside ConnectWise, inside the ticket, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Can you sort of explain a little bit about where this comes within our process as well? So does this come um, after we've been flagged as a mailbox breach as a possible alert from another system? How does it sort of fit into our workflow at the moment?
Yeah, so pretty much, if somebody reports on a ticket saying, I've accidentally pressed something or anything like that, this is the go-to. And same as Candy said with any alerts. So obviously we do get security alerts, for example, logging into locations that, not authorized and stuff like that. So we can essentially be proactive on this, kind of run this through. And the good thing
Yeah.
is with this, it will highlight things such as, actually, do you know what, this took a bit of a duration to go from, like, for instance, the UK to the US. Make sure ring the client, are they traveling abroad, and not put a request
Yeah.
in. So it is very good on that sense. But yeah, this is our go-to on anything like that.
Okay. Brilliant.
So yeah, I'll share my screen. So the workflow itself is, it is very basic, is in terms of the way somebody needs to use it, because the whole point of this is it's quick snapping result. So from an engineer's perspective, they select the ticket, select the account, and that is it. So
Okay.
there's no more, because this is where Breachland kind of comes in.
Yeah, and
Now,
that's a
kind of
form, and that's a form that's built within Roost as well, so they know to go to that form and run that workflow.
exactly.
Yeah.
So once that form's kind of run, as you can see here, inside your ticket, you'll end up with one report. There's three on here because, as you imagine, it takes like a minute or so for this to work. So it'll be quicker to quickly run it beforehand, just to make sure everything's here for you. So I will show what the report looks like. So as you can see here, it gives an overall verdict. So as you see here, the risk score is 90. But it's okay showing that. But okay, why is that? Why is it that high? And this is kind of what it does. It breaks it all down. So impossible travel between London and US Boston, 4 minutes apart. So we know that's physically impossible, unless the Superman or Flash or somebody, you ain't getting there that quick. And
Yeah.
it even shows the successful interactive sign-ins from different countries, and it breaks down the IPs. Now, because this is in my sandbox environment, this was all done on a VPN, just to put it out there. So
Yeah.
none of these IPs are real. But there's also little other things just in this top box alone. So it will also pick up the fact, is it an admin? Is do they have MFA methods? So it's quite easy to come to come to this bit and get an overview. Now,
Yeah.
if your devices are in tuned, you've got conditional access and everything else like that set up, here it will pick it up. So it will actually say, these guys have a compliant device. They've logged in 10 times, for example, but we can see there's 3 times it's been in a non-compliant device. So straight away, that's a flag because you're like, oh, why not using
Okay.
their device? Now here it breaks down, a couple of things to do. For example, suspend unstable sign-ins, invalidate existing sessions. There's a lot that it kind of goes through. So this is 100% kind of step by step for an engineer to kind of go through and look through. So it kind of helps make this more versatile. So a lot of people can essentially go and use this, and they don't need to have a massive understanding. So I will
Yeah.
break these 2 buttons down in a moment. There is further details here. So one of the things is, you log into Entra, you go look at the sign-in logs, and looking at the IPs, kind of looking for flags. Well, this, again, it does that for you. So as you can see, there's total events of 17, and it picks up everything. Successful sign-ins, failed sign-ins, failed to success sign-ins. And for example, if you don't want to necessarily kind of go through all the ins and outs of here, you can detect it. And then it'll tell you, for example, it picked up here that this is the whole pattern that it found between the IPs. So essentially, it's going, well, actually, this is the impossible travel. Here's your attack pattern. So again, it gets that result that you need. So we know, okay, actually, this is highly compromised. But it's in with mailbox, for example. Obviously, you see here, these are just a few tests. And it only keeps the domains. It doesn't show the who's actually sending it to, for again security reasons. But for example, when I was saying earlier about when you get a compromised email or mailbox, they send a lot of external emails out in a very short duration. So here it will pick it all up. It'll pick up any suspicious rules. Now, again, in this case, I made this mailbox specifically just to kind of run this test. But if you had some sort of mailbox rules such as delete all incoming emails, this would flag it as well. And same as apps and identity. So as you can see here, it's got the authenticator app, but down here, any permissions, let's say, for example, there's a third party that's linked to your 365. This will pick that up, and it'll give you the creation date and everything like that. Now, in this case, again, this was a test, so I haven't linked any apps to it. But yeah, overall, from a security perspective, they get 90% of all the information they need, and they've not had to lift a finger.
So how technically how is that working? Is that going and pulling all the logs from the 365 environment? Is there anything that you've set up to analyze those logs as well? How is that actually set up to work?
Yeah, so this has two parts to it. Essentially, it also, depending whether you have a premium license to a standard license, will depend on the login. That's just due to Microsoft.
Mhm.
So if you have a premium, the login it gets is very, very detailed. But yeah, this will essentially, it will log onto their 365, well, go to their 365 environment, and it will check everything that our security would. So, like I was saying earlier with the Entra sign-in logs, it will check patterns and everything else. But as well as it, kind of having a lot of filters built in, this does use the capabilities of AI as well.
Okay.
But again, the AI is only doing one very specific job, and it's only reading specific information I want it to. So again, on security standard, it does really well. So such are the steps that, kind of what to do is I'm only feeding it minimum information. Because, like you can see here as well, this is something I probably should have showed. It's picked up that there's conditional access policies that the user's not a part of. So we just flag that up, but that's the
Okay.
AI. The AI is going, actually, there's a bit of inconsistency between users here. Why isn't this person a part of that policy?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Um, and just in case you kind of want to get really technical here, is it's okay kind of seeing everything that I've broken down in this workflow. Um, I also output the raw, if the raw details that this gets. This is without the filters and stuff like that. I'm not going to scroll really, really far down because, it comes with a lot of data with it, but it
Yeah,
just means there's still that overview if you want to go and have a look at everything that's been brought in yourself, rather than kind of having it all filtered out like this. So I think that's really good on Element because you can always double check everything that's already on here. And again, you can see here going back to conditional access policy. This is the CA001. That it flagged up saying, well, why isn't this person part of it? And it's right, because if it was, it wouldn't be breached from the US. Um,
yeah,
so, it is very thorough, but in some cases, it's not always going to be a compromised mailbox. So this is kind of where these buttons come in. So once this report comes through and you've looked through it, you can generally kind of consider, okay, this is breached or it's not. Um, and if it's not, you kind of don't want to just kind of run off it. You'd also like a nice tidy report to give to clients. The same if it, yes, once it's the compromise been dealt with, you kind of want to be able to send the client something that's informative, but not too much, and it's easy enough to understand what the next steps of the process is going to be.
yeah. It's
When you
definitely
hit
it's
a nice,
definitely worthwhile having that type of report to give to a client rather than just a ticket note updated by an engineer. I think in situations like this, they need to be reassured of what's been done and given
exactly.
confidence that we've acted on it properly. So yeah, going a little bit further with that helps.
Well, we've had real positive feedback since we've kind of introduced that as well. Because like the client said, they don't always necessarily kind of understand all the technical aspects to it. So if we can give them a simple breakdown of what we've done, such as resetting passwords and stuff like that, and what the next steps is, for example, if one of our techs on service test pick this up, they'll do everything to secure the account, and then it goes to security team. Now,
Yeah,
kind of as you said, instead of having a chain of emails kind of going through on your ticket, you get a nice report you can just send to the client, and then that's so it makes it easy for them to read and understand that process as well. When you kind of hit a yes or no, you've got to have a nice little response. But that's kind of irrelevant, but it's still kind of how it goes. Now, if we say here, this was not breached. This is the sort of report they'd essentially get. So it'll say it's active enabled. There's two methods, and then it'll give them a nice conclusion here. Plain, simple, straight to the point. So it's undergone security review, the controlled authentication methods, etc. And like it says there, your account is secure and all security measures are properly configured. No actions is required from you at this time. So quite plain and simple. Right, look, we've checked all these different stuff, and it's not gone into details about what we've checked. It's just that we've checked these elements, and this is our conclusion of it. So, again, it's nice and it's straightforward. There is a light mode and dark mode to absolutely everything on this. I just might add. It's just when you're kind of working in this all the time, light mode really hurts your eyes. Now this is another one. So to prove a point, there's light mode. So this is if something has been breached or someone has been breached. This explains okay why. So as you can see here, it's gone through no external forwarding, email activity reviewed, no MFA methods configured. Kind of gone all through that, and then it kind of breaks down kind of everything on here. So password reset, active sessions terminated. Now the reason why it says not required because for this case I was just quickly trying to rush through, so I just turned it off for now. But again, these are all the things that you can do in here, and even exactly kind of what the next steps, and essentially that our engineers will be in touch, jump on your machine, and that it will then go to our security team. As you can see here, the account is now moved out to our security team for further investigation. So, as well as our SD being in touch with the client, jumping on just to make sure they sign back in, they now know that's not the end of it. Our security team is now going to go review everything and make sure, everything is secure and, they have all the information they need about, why this happened, how to prevent it in the future, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and then kind of on a technical aspect, it's simple ticket updates. This is all we kind of need. So these two here are for the accountability side, I'd like to say. So, for example, if someone says no to running that compromised mailbox, even though the risk goes really high, it's actually say and the AI's reporting things such as actually go contact the client, make sure they're not traveling abroad or anything like that, and your engineer hasn't, and they've hit that no button, and yet it turns out the breach. There's just that little bit of accountability on here. And same with hit yes. Now again, you can put a nice end note on here to basically go through them final bits with them. It even says, take screenshots for making any changes. Because in this case, when you run a compromised mailbox, it doesn't just kind of reset the password and sign you out of all sessions. It also disables all mailbox rules. It'll remove email forwarding. It wipes all MFA methods, kind of everything you need. So that means then when you get on the user's machine, you can, go through them rules with them and only delete the malicious ones. And that way they're keeping everything legitimate.
Yeah, just for clarity as well, Gareth. Obviously, we've got the breach lens side of things, but the compromise user account workflow sort of links into that, doesn't it? So that's
Yeah.
another piece of work that we've developed in the background that sort of links to all this as well.
So breach lens is the report, and the yes or no buttons are simply, if you're hitting yes, that's where it fires off the second workflow, which
Yeah,
then will go and secure the account.
brilliant, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Good to get under the hood of what we've done there. So thank you very much.
No, no
I'll
problem.
speak to you
Thanks for
soon,
having me.
Gareth. Bye.
Bye.